What's up, you guys? This is Viktoriya Cole. Welcome back to my channel. Alright, you guys, so this week's project is an awesome one. This is something I wanted to do for a long time because I had this piece, the bottom piece, for probably good 2 months. I had some extra spending money and I saw it and I wanted it, and then I went back to the store again to see it, and then I still didn't buy it because I was just not wanting to pay that much money. But then something came up, I had some extra cash, and so I was like, I gotta get that thing because I gotta do this project. I really do. And one of the things that really pushed me into doing this project is that we got rid of the table that was holding this fire pit. These are fire pits that you can get relatively pretty much anywhere. They actually sit right on top of your tables, like the tables that have like a little hole for you to stick the umbrella in, like the patio tables. And we had one. We had a patio table that was round. It was just way too large for the space. We had it from our old house, so we got rid of it. We sold it, and we had this sitting in the garage. And I'm like, we need to utilize this, especially with spring coming up. I'm excited to spend more time outside because you know that I'm an outdoorsy person. I love my kids to play outside and get creative, so I had to create this space, especially with spring coming around the corner. And I know it's different for everybody, but here in South Carolina, you know, our weather is fickle. So today it was kind of warmer during the day. Now it's a little chilly, so I turned it on so I could also warm myself up because you guys, this is kind of chilly for me. But I wanted to kind of go through a step-by-step process with some interactive videos that I recorded while I was making this piece, so you can see exactly how to make a piece similar to this or even pretty much identical to this. Came up with this idea and of course bought this planter. This planter was probably the most expensive thing that I bought for this project. You don't necessarily have to pick this planter, but I felt like it worked for the space. It had this nice bowl shape type of look, and actually looks like it's a concrete piece, but very modern, even though it's plastic, and it has like a nice thick rim. I like the look of it, the size of it, the weight of it, just everything. So I had to go to the store, I had to get it. It was $129. I know it's pretty expensive, but I'm gonna have to tell you that planters are expensive. If you follow me on Instagram and I talk about plants, I have a fiddle leaf tree. If you wanted to check out my IGTV video, and I talk about a similar planter that I bought for my fiddle leaf, it was $40. But they can range up to $200. Planters are pretty expensive, so this was relatively kind of a medium range. So once I bought this piece, I was like, I can get some plywood and actually create a tabletop. So whenever I was thinking through this project, I wanted to make sure that I was troubleshooting all the sides, and decided to create this little latch door. And the reason why is because, of course, this piece goes on top through the hole, just like you would in your patio table or on your patio table. But in order for me not to have to shift this tabletop off and on every time I need to change that tank, because the gas tank that comes with this is kind of small, basically I would just open this latch, unscrew the gas tank, which you can easily reach, put a new one in, close it, and I'm done. So I'm not risking the lid to sliding off and then causing this to fall, because these are glass pieces, and or get this damage. So every time, you know, I had to change a gas tank, I was thinking about, like, I'd rather just do a little latch door instead of having to move the cover off and on, because you want to make it light, nice and pretty, but you also want it to make sure that it kind of is usable. You know what I mean? So bought this sheet of plywood at Home Depot. So basically this planter is a little bit over 3 feet wide in diameter. Like the widest part of it is 3 feet, a little bit over 3 feet. So I cut a specific square, or actually picked up a 4x4 plywood piece, which was not treated. And of course with plywood, it can be kind of fickle. I used a jigsaw to cut a circle, of course with tracing it. So basically when I brought it home, it was a square. I flipped the planter over, did the little tracing method, very simple, something we learned in kindergarten, hopefully. So with the jigsaw, a lot of times what happens, it'll kind of ruin the edges. So it's a good idea to use like an electric sander. If you don't have it, you can definitely use a sponge. It might take you a little bit longer to soften up these edges, and I actually rounded them off. So they're nice and soft. You won't be, you know, having any kind of splinters. So yeah, use a sander. And of course, sometimes plywood pieces do come with some defects. Like this one came with this, and I guess I didn't see it, but I already got it. So I'm like, I'm just going to use it, you know, kind of gives it a little bit of character. So it's right underneath. It's not a big deal. So I created this latch door. So once I created the circle, I cut it with a jigsaw, and then I basically measured out 2 lines that would meet in the middle. So the widest point over here, the widest line, and it will meet in the middle like this. So that will give me a point to where I needed to make my circle cut for the insertion of this fire pit. And I basically measured it out. I bought a drill bit. You can buy those at Home Depot. The average is about $10 depending on the brand that you buy. Mine was Bosch, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it was $13. Not a big deal. You know, I used it to cut this hole so that I can insert this fire pit in, but I also use it for other things like creating 4 more circles to put on all 4 sides of the tabletop, and making sure that I measure out my rim right here so that whenever they close, it sits against the rim nicely and there's no shifting back and forth. So we don't risk somebody pushing this over and accidentally causing an accident. So these actually would really, really help. So I used some wood glue and a screw to screw it in the middle. Yeah, and so it's nice and solid in one place, and that's what helps to keep it in place. So once I did that, I measured out my fire pit, the width of it. I wanted to make sure it laid against the grain, because the grain of this wood kind of goes this way, so it kind of like looks nice and modern. And then I measured about 5 inches away from the fire pit, of course, depending on the size that you do, to create this latch door. So it's nice and away from the fire, because as you can see right here, it's not in the way. And then I cut that straight line to create this latch door. I bought some flat hinges. You can buy any kinds you want depending on, you know, the style. You can buy rustic ones, you can buy, you know, a little bit more modern ones, some minimal one. I'm sure you can even put some over here at the bottom. But of course you'll have to have a bigger space if you're putting it at the bottom, because it would have to have the ability to close. So I just put mine on top. Not a big deal. They're kind of nice and flush. They're black. They match my planter at the bottom. And then I stained it. I used a cedar stain, which you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of your craft stores. You can buy a small one for $3. You don't have to buy any big ones. The big ones I think are $16, but you can just buy a small one because it's very watery. So you can use a rag or you can use a foam brush to stain this really nicely and put as many coats as you want. I just did one. It's actually the same stain as I have on these wooden pieces that I made right here, these wooden seats. Of course, it looks different because this is treated wood. So this treated wood kind of naturally has this green hue. So it does look different because this was not a treated plywood piece. So it kind of looks lighter, which matches the swing that I have in that corner. Anyway, and then I used a clear coat spray just to spray the top and my sides, just so that whenever we put drinks on here or kids are playing, it can be an easier cleanup situation. It doesn't go into my wood and I have rings everywhere. Or if you're obsessed with, you know, coasters, I feel like they will get lost outside. So I would rather do something proactive to kind of maintain this, or help to keep this piece maintained so I don't have to mess with this, you know, every single couple of months. So that's an option. You don't have to do that, but I think it would be kind of an awesome thing because, you know, when you're outside, people want to lounge, they'll probably prop their feet on this table because I made it for this height specifically for that reason. or put their cup on here, you know, or whatever your preference is. And then of course I inserted this piece, and then you attach one of those little screw-in pieces that go into this piece that connects the gas tank, and then you buy a gas tank. The gas tank is like $3 from Home Depot. You can't refill them, you have to buy them all the time because they're smaller. But again, if you're not using it all the time, this still will be sufficient. And I just keep a couple of tanks in my house, so if we have people over and it accidentally runs out, I'll go into the house and I exchange this. Very easy process. And you can buy these pretty much anywhere. A lot of them range to about $100. These are like tabletop fire pits. You can actually even look up at Facebook Marketplace. I shop there quite often, buy them off of people that may not be using it anymore, and I'm sure you could get a better deal than $100. But again, altogether, this project turned out to be, without this piece, because we bought this, I think, for $35 at a bargain store about 2 years ago. And so if I'm not counting this fire pit piece right here, altogether it was about $145, $150. So a lot cheaper than a $500 fire pit that you can find at the store about this size. So you can definitely make this fire pit smaller if you didn't want to have the table space. And recreate something similar. You can find a planter that I have used for my fiddle leaf tree on my IGTV. It's about $40. You can buy a piece of plywood that's a 2x2 instead of a 4x4. So altogether, this project can cost you about $125 if you're wanting to go that route. But this is just a small, inexpensive way to kind of elevate your living space outside without breaking the bank and still be kind of creative and unique, and something that you can do at home. And even if you don't have the tools, you could definitely ask somebody. I'm sure somebody that you know has those tools, like the Jigsaw. I didn't have that. I actually asked my brother-in-law and he had it, so I borrowed it, and it worked for this project. So I've never used that tool. It's something new that I, learned to use during this project. I'm sure I'll get better at it, and hopefully one day I'm going to have my own little shop. So we'll keep you posted on that as well, because that's just something that I enjoy doing. And I hope that you enjoy watching these projects. And if you do, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more creative projects like this. And as always, I say, create culture, be you. I'll see you guys next time in my next video.